Finally, I covered all of the Half-Life and Portal material. Now I can go play more Titanfall 2 and Half-Life mods. Gosh dang it! Hello everyone, Mario Moy Music here, and today I am doing another commentary. To explain the context, Portal 2 was released on April 18th, 2011, and 2 years later, on November 26, 2013, Steam introduced user reviews. Htwo is a YouTube channel dedicated to video essays about video game designs. One of the series that Htwo does is responding to negative reviews of beloved games such as Minecraft, Left 4 Dead 2, Celeste, and the subject of today's video, Portal 2, which was released on August 11th, 2022. Before starting this commentary, I would like to let everyone know that I don't hate Portal 2. In fact, I love Portal 2, and without it, I wouldn't be into Half-Life. After playing Portal 2, I wanted to get Portal 1 because I loved it, and my cousin got me Portal 1 and the Valve pack, along with Gmod and Terraria, which led to me to playing Half-Life. So I love Portal 2. I just don't like bad arguments about Portal 2. And I'll also be arguing against some of the reviews here because some of them suck. With that being said, let's begin this commentary.
The review page on Steam is generally a bit of a waste of time. All you have to do to know if a game is worth buying is look over here. Check that it says overwhelmingly positive, and it's as easy as that. Make sure to check those genre tags too. If it's a genre you know you don't like, then avoid it. But otherwise, this is all you need. Most of the positive reviews just tell you that the game's amazing, with no real broader explanation as to why it's so good. And most negative reviews are just some scorned child who learned about the review system yesterday, and they want to be angry about something.
Not starting off well. For starters, what about review bombing, where a large number of people post negative reviews to hurt the sales and or overall rating of the video game on Steam? There is a literal Wikipedia page dedicated to review bombing, and most of the examples that Wikipedia shows are video games that got reviewed bombed. Now to be fair, Steam doesn't count unpaid reviews towards the overall score, but games like Gears 5, Total War Rome 2, and Firewatch still got review bombed on Steam. Not only that, but Steam has review categories. One of those categories is the most helpful. These are reviews that fellow players of the game agree that the reviewer provided potential buyers the reasons for why or why not one would want to play a game. Hey guys, Postpack here. This is like the 5th time me rendering this video and I added some points. I hope you guys can tell if I sound very frustrated. But, why did you randomly show a transphobe review of the game Celeste? Like, yeah, I get it. It's meant to illustrate your point about how bad Steam reviews are, but you can show good examples of how bad the reviews are on Steam without using bigoted reviews, because this bigotry can trigger marginalized people. I'd also like to note that this transphobe review just comes right out of nowhere with reviews that say Butt Monkey and Theo isn't poggers. Like, talk about tone whiplash. I'd also like to note that some of the reviews that we see in H2's videos are reviews that go into detail about why they like the game.
I'm just gonna keep giving you 100%, Chef. Every day.
I'll give you 125%, Chef.
I don't know percentages.
The game's dark in some areas, I guess, but I don't remember it being that dark.
Well, that kind of depends. What if the computer that they're playing on can't go bright enough for the sections of the game that are dark? Also, what if the player's house has too much light? Like, the person's house has too many windows, the lights are too bright, or they are playing the game outside, or their eyesight has to have their computer to be super bright on all times. I know some people that have their brightness on 100% on their devices all the time to be able to see them. Also, it could potentially be the color palette of Portal 2 for the darkness complaint. Most of the puzzles are dark gray and white, and all the other colors, aside from the gels, are darker and more washed out. Not only that, but most of Portal 2 takes place in the rundown areas of Aperture, where the areas aren't lit compared to the other sections in the game. And the fact that players can't control the brightness is an issue because of my aforementioned reasons, and compared to other games that Valve has made in the past on the Source engine, it's weird that Portal 2 doesn't have this feature. I'd also like to note that throughout this video, Htwo will try to argue with the reviews by simply saying, "I don't think it is." And I'll try to argue for reasons for why the players might have these problems.
The environments are more visually cluttered? Well, quite frankly, I don't even think this is necessarily true. The chambers of Aperture Science are very bland and empty in the first game, which of course is on purpose, but that lack of visual clutter is just the aesthetic that's on display in the game. In the later parts of the game, when you're trying to escape the test chambers, the outside world of Aperture Science is very cluttered, dirty, and dense, which is also true in the sequel. But this time, the game starts off cluttered, then the test chambers get fixed up and polished again, and then you arrive at a cluttered location once more. Increased graphical fidelity has nothing to do with it, if you ask me.
Congratulations, H2. You proved their point right. H2 straight up says, in the original Portal, it got more cluttered at the end. And Portal 2 is more cluttered throughout the game. That's not even their full point. The reviewer's issue with Portal 2 is the fact that, due to its clutterness, the puzzles are unfairly harder.
And finally, the part that makes the least sense. Many puzzles make you ask, what am I supposed to do, instead of how am I supposed to do it? This is just silly. Getting into the semantics of how these two questions are ever so slightly different from one another, and how that might change gameplay, is honestly a waste of time. But, if anything, both Portal 1 and Portal 2 ask you how am I supposed to do it far more than they ask you what am I supposed to do, since the game's unique mechanics are introduced to you very clearly and concisely, which means there's very little confusion on the what side of things. The what is portals, or gel, or excursion funnels, or whatever else it shows you. These mechanics are obviously part of the solution to the puzzle, and you know it from the start. It's how you use these things that makes each puzzle unique and interesting. So despite how much of a pedantic waste of time dissecting this sentence is, it doesn't end up even being true at the end of the day.
Yes, the puzzles aren't that hard to you, but to others, these puzzles are hard to solve. When looking at the comments section, we see several people agreeing with this review about some of the puzzles being hard to solve. This is the third time which H2 argues with, "I don't think it is." This isn't a good argument because it depends on several things: the hardware they're using, the player's skill at the game, the player's visual preferences. Another thing I'd like to mention is that, yes, the game shows you the mechanics, but the puzzles may not explain to the player how to use the mechanics in that specific puzzle. Also, H2 attacks this review for the wording in their eyes being bad. When looking at the previous sentence, the reviewer talks about how the design of the environments makes it hard to engage with puzzles. This kind of explains the where and how part of the review. The reviewer feels like they aren't given much direction on how to solve the puzzles. And now, I have to discuss Portal 2's replayability. Again. Yay.
You can call me crazy all you want, but tomorrow, Chelsea will humble Liverpool. Nobody take me to the mental institution!
The game gets very boring over time. The jokes are repetitive, and the story has a bunch of twists that simply make the game longer. When you beat the main game, that's basically it. All the custom chambers suck and are easily breakable, so it gets boring quickly.
Hold on. Something's not right. When I first saw this video, I thought the review shown was just one lousy Steam review. But then I noticed how the parts that H2 highlighted were just one sentence. It almost appeared like they took the review out of context. So I went ahead and tried searching for the original review and it turns out it was 3 reviews that H2 just stitched together. And while I'm at it, this is the other review that H2 argued against. Melting Ice's review states that they like the game, but they feel like the game doesn't give the player enough reasons to come back, and how the game kept crashing on him to the point it felt unplayable. Jacob is the only one that H2 didn't take out of context. MedCivic argued that due to them feeling like the game drags out length, they lost all interest in the game. Going back earlier in this commentary, you know how I said H2 doesn't show who wrote the review? Look at the description, it's just H2's social media and a summary of the video. Now I do understand for why H2 doesn't link the reviews. After all, H2 has 54.6 thousand subscribers, and the video has 500,000 views. This could potentially make it easier for the fans of the game to harass the reviewers over their reviews. I would recommend H2 to show the whole review and just read the parts that he wants to respond to, but they already did.
I have 1 hour on this game. This is a highly qualified review. I opened the game and then proceed to close it. It took over okay, you know, for in the beginning, I actually thought that this was going to be a real review, and it's of course not, because why would it be? If you have motion sickness, save your money and don't buy this game. I actually had to puke. Very much fun. I got motion sickness while playing this game. I only played for about 20 minutes and was out of commission for the next hour. Seems like a great game, but beware if you're sensitive to motion sickness in games. Tried changing the FOV and stuff, but it had the same result.
This has me asking, why didn't H2 do this for these reviews about the replayability of Portal 2?
Portal 2 being a puzzle game.
Hey! I'm not done yet. I'm going to argue against Melting Ice's review. Why do the custom chambers impact your overall thoughts on the game? Yes, you're not a fan of the custom chambers, so why does the game warrant a negative review? It's not the game's fault that the fans created bad custom chambers, it's the fans' fault. Now, how does H2 argue against these reviews?
Portal 2 being a puzzle game means that it suffers from the same issue that all puzzle games have. A lot of games get their replayability from mechanical challenge. Games like Cuphead. Getting better at the game is an incentive to go back and play it again. See how much you've improved, or how quickly you can beat the bosses this time. Roguelikes get their replay value from the random nature of the game, so no 2 runs will ever be the same. But puzzle games don't have this luxury. Once you've beaten the game, going back to replay it can be quite boring, if not literally impossible in some cases. The fun of the game is the discovery. Discovering interesting solutions to the puzzle is the fun. So if you know the solution to the puzzle, there is no fun. There's no discovery, there's no aha moment, you're just going through the motions to complete the level. But Portal 2 is actually a slight exception to this rule, since Portal 2 has 2 major changes that make the game much more replayable than the average puzzle game. First off, Portal has speedruns. There's time trials for individual levels built into the game, and there's also external leaderboards for speedrun categories on the internet. So this takes a puzzle game and begins to put a ton of emphasis on that mechanical skill, giving it a similar type of replay value as a game like Cuphead might have. Instead of discovering the solution to a puzzle, it becomes how well you can execute the strategy in this room to go as fast as possible. And with source movement mechanics built in, that adds even more depth to just simply moving around the room.
The point was almost there, kind of, but as soon as H2 mentioned leaderboards for speedrunning, the point fell apart. Speedrunning is complicated, as H2 said. It requires the player to know the solutions for the puzzles and knowledge of the source engine. Researching any video game engine can take a long amount of time, and most people who want to play video games do this as a hobby. They may not want to spend hours and hours to maybe even years to get a small time difference. Take a look at this one speedrun of Half-Life, which took 4 whole years to plan, and they got a 7-minute difference between their previous speedrun. Most people don't want to do all that research and take the time to understand the game and the engine and improve on their strategies. Most people just want to play the game and not have to think about how the game works on a mechanical level or try to get the fastest time on a single game or level.
The thing Portal has is user-created stages. There's a level editor that allows people to make custom puzzles. Of course, most of them are bad, as is the case with basically all user-generated content, but finding the good ones is a pretty good source of replay value.
How? This is like losing a video game competition against DSP Gaming. This is like losing a name the highest number competition. This is like losing an American football game against the Detroit Lions. This is like getting eliminated before Louie from Hell's Kitchen Season 6.
Hey! Get Upstairs, get your bags packed.
Can I help? Can I help in the kitchen?
You can help me. Get out!
Before I begin this point, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that the way I argue against Melting Ice's review isn't the only way to argue against the reviewer. I just felt like H2's argument wasn't good. For starters, Melting Ice literally said that the custom maps sucked, and telling them and others who have the same issue to just play more maps isn't going to change their viewpoint, because H2 themselves agrees with the opinion that most Portal 2 custom maps suck.
Of course, most of them are bad, as is the case with basically all user-generated content.
Yes, there are plenty of good custom maps, but because there are so many bad custom maps, most people don't want to play a ton of bad maps just to find one good one, because most people don't want to consume bad media. The point was doomed from the start. What makes it even worse, the fact that H2 doesn't even show the viewers some good Portal 2 custom maps. He just tells them to keep playing more. One final thing that I will acknowledge is that you don't even acknowledge Medzivic's review, which has me asking, why put in your video if you're not going to argue against the review? Hey everyone, Postpack here again. I like to make the argument that couldn't the same be said towards Steam reviews? How a lot of Steam reviews are bad, but there are very few Steam reviews that actually give you good reasons for why you may or may not want to play or buy the game. And this is where we end the commentary. Final thoughts? This video was bad. I will acknowledge that there were some good parts about this video, like their points about Portal 2's FOV, and fans of the game giving negative reviews is a waste of time, and the video for the most part was nicely edited. First, let's go over some production problems. Some of the reviews that H2 selected, they only showed part of the reviews. They could potentially be taking some of the reviews out of context, when in other parts they showed the whole review but just read the parts that they are arguing against. Another issue is that H2 gives certain solutions, but they don't show the viewers how to do it, such as the FOV segment, in which H2 doesn't show the viewers how to change the FOV.
Changing your field of view options in the game is another common solution. Valve games are infamous for having terrible default settings, and the low FOV is one of those. Raising it up to 90 can help a lot with motion sickness.
Sure, someone can look it up, but they have to go through more work to fix the FOV. Now to general issues. The first issue I have is that I felt like H2 focused too much on the joke negative reviews of Portal 2. I understand dedicating one segment to them, but they took up a good chunk of H2's reviews, when it should be focusing on the actual criticisms of Portal 2. Hello everyone, Postpack here again, just to read this post point I wrote, to elaborate on how much the joke reviews took up of this video. The joke reviews took about 1 minute and 53 seconds of the video, with 1 minute and 14 seconds of the joke reviews are just H2 reading the joke reviews. If this is all H2 could find on Steam, he could have gone to other video game review user websites, such as Metacritic, Google Reviews, and plenty more that I can't name off the top of my head. Now we have my biggest issue with this video, and this is for anybody who wants to make a video responding to criticism of something you like. I hope I don't come off as egotistical. Not everybody is going to have the same experience that you do with a piece of media. This doesn't mean you can't respond to bad criticism, or point out that they're bad at the game, or point out the lacking amount of media literacy the person has. What I mean is that how you consume a piece of media won't be the same as how another person does it. This is what I saw in H2's videos. They argue with points that wouldn't make sense with what a casual player might be thinking. This was most apparent with the replayability segment, with them arguing that competitive speedrunning can be a reason for why someone would want to replay the game, and they tells people who hate custom chambers to play more. And most people had issues with the game, H2 argued that it wasn't like that for them, such as the brightness and the way Portal 2 explains the puzzles. If you see a negative review of something you like and don't understand why, you should try to at the very least understand why the person thinks that. And here's the thing, they does have this level of understanding in the FOV segment and the story versus gameplay segment, but when it came to the other subjective problems, they didn't show that level of understanding. The worst part is that most of the reviews of Portal 2 were bad. Really bad. And the fact that H2's arguments were also bad just made this an all-around frustrating video. And this is where we end the video. Feel free to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. I'm Packer Mario Boy Music, and I'll see you later.